The scent of aged wood and a whisper of dust always felt like coming home. My shop, the Gilded Cage, wasn't for everyone. To some, it was just a cluttered space filled with old, forgotten things. To me, it was a treasure trove, a place where history whispered from every object, waiting for someone to listen. I poured my life into it, painstakingly restoring a chipped vanity here, researching the provenance of a tarnished locket there, finding the perfect frame for a faded print. This wasn't just a business. It was my passion, my sanctuary, built piece by painstaking piece. That quiet afternoon, the late spring sunlight slanting through the front window felt particularly precious, a calm before the storm I knew was coming. My stepsister Chloe had called earlier. She needed to swing by to pick up an antique mirror she'd bought ages ago and never collected. Standard, polite, but I knew what swing by meant when it came to Chloe and our extended family. It meant bringing an entourage, an inspection team disguised as casual visitors. This time, it was Uncle Robert and Aunt Caroline joining her. My stomach did a familiar little clench. The bell above the door jingled, a sound that usually brought a smile. Today, it felt like a warning chime. Chloe entered first, a vision in a perfectly tailored blazer, her smile bright and practiced. Behind her, Uncle Robert, looking entirely out of place in his expensive loafers, peered around with an expression that managed to be both dismissive and vaguely curious. Aunt Caroline, all soft sweaters and polite nods, trailed slightly behind, her eyes scanning the shelves with a look of gentle pity. Stella. Oh, it's cozy, Chloe said, her voice a little too loud, as if trying to cut through the perceived clutter. Uncle Robert chuckled, a dry, rustling sound like old paper. Cozy? Looks like a glorified attic sale, Chloe. Aunt Caroline immediately nudged him. Now, Robert, it has a character. She turned to me, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Still finding treasures, dear? I managed a smile that didn't quite reach mine either. Always. What can I get for you, Chloe? The mirror is wrapped and ready in the back. Perfect, she chirped, already reaching for her phone. I just have to text David that I'm here. Oh, by the way, she paused, looking around the shop again. Guess what? I made senior partner. Youngest in the firm's history. The congratulatory chorus began immediately. Uncle Robert boomed his approval, thumping Chloe lightly on the back. Aunt Caroline clasped her hands together. Oh, Chloe, darling, that's wonderful. We always knew you were destined for the top. A proper career, such stability. They gathered around Chloe, a tight little huddle of admiration, their voices a murmur of promotions, corner offices, and projected earnings. I leaned against the counter, taking a slow breath, feeling that familiar, dull ache under my ribs. It wasn't that I begrudged Chloe her success. She worked hard, played the game well. It was the way they talked about it, the obvious contrast they were drawing, the implicit judgment hanging in the air like dust motes in a sunbeam. Then, inevitably, the spotlight swung back to me. And you, Stella? Uncle Robert asked, his tone dripping with condescension. Still playing antiques? Aunt Caroline added, her voice soft with what she probably thought was sympathy. We just worry about you, dear. It's such an unstable business, isn't it? Flipping things. Chloe, bless her heart, tried a different angle, a more helpful one. You know, Stella, my firm has a fantastic administrative department. If you ever needed help with, say, invoicing or contracts, we could probably get you a discount. Small businesses need solid foundations. I toyed with a loose thread on my apron. Contracts. Foundations. If they only knew. The numbers flowing through my various business accounts in a month could likely buy their solid foundation law firm outright. The flipping things involved items worth more than their combined annual salaries. But I just smiled, a tight, controlled expression. The Gilded Cage keeps me busy enough, Uncle Robert. And I have all the support I need. Lily, my assistant and the only person who knew the full truth, was carefully bubble wrapping a small, fragile box near the back room entrance. She glanced up, catching my eye, and gave the slightest, almost imperceptible shake of her head, a silent, "Don't let them get to you." It was a small gesture, but it grounded me. Busy flipping pancakes, more like, Uncle Robert muttered just loud enough for me to hear, chuckling to himself. Chloe gave a polite, slightly strained laugh. That's where the sting was. Not just in the mockery, but in their utter inability, their refusal to see me, to see the work, the skill, the immense value in what I did. They were so blinded by the conventional definition of success, the corporate ladder, the prestigious degrees, the visible titles, that they couldn't comprehend a different kind of empire, built quietly, deliberately, from the ground up, or rather, from the overlooked and the undervalued. And I let them believe it. That was my secret, my shield. Letting them think I was just playing around protected the real work, the real money, the real power I was quietly accumulating, piece by piece, deal by deal, right under their noses. The family browsed slowly, their comments a low hum of well-meaning dismissal and self-congratulation. Chloe found her mirror in the back, admiring it again, talking about where she'd put it in her new, much larger office. Aunt Caroline picked up a beautiful, intricate lace shawl from the 1920s. Lovely, she sighed, holding it delicately. Someone put so much work into this. A shame that kind of skill isn't practical anymore. I bit back a retort. Practical? I had a client base willing to pay thousands for original pieces like that, not just for the skill, but for the history, the art, the sheer impractical beauty of it. They didn't see the value beyond the dust. Later, when they were momentarily distracted by an old phonograph Uncle Robert was trying and failing to operate, I slipped into the back room. The air changed instantly, from the nostalgic, slightly dusty charm of the shop front to the cool, humming efficiency of my real workspace. Sleek monitors glowed, displaying market data for rare items. Secured shelves held meticulously cataloged inventory, each piece worth more than the entire contents of the front room combined. Shipping labels for international destinations sat ready. This was the engine room, the nerve center of the Gilded Cage's actual business. Lily was at her desk, meticulously photographing a set of antique scientific instruments. She was sharp, detail-oriented, and utterly discreet, essential qualities in my line of work. "They're still here," she murmured, not looking up. "Still here," I confirmed, sinking into my ergonomic chair. "Senior partner, apparently. Lots of talk about proper careers and stability." Lily snorted softly. "Right. Because dealing with authentication fraud in a six-figure manuscript sale, or navigating customs for a multi-million-dollar art piece, or outbidding ruthless collectors online isn't stable or proper." She shook her head. "Sometimes I don't know how you stand it." "It's easier than trying to explain," I said, the words feeling heavy. "Trying to make them understand that there's value beyond what fits their narrow definition. That I chose this, built this, precisely because it's outside their box. They see dust and old furniture. They don't see the global network, the research, the negotiation, the sheer adrenaline of landing a truly exceptional piece." I pulled up a recent sales report on one of my monitors, figures that would make Chloe's eyes water. This wasn't just about the money, though the money was substantial. It was about the thrill of the hunt, the connection to history, the satisfaction of recognizing true value where others saw only junk. It was about building something entirely my own, independent of my family's name, their expectations, their legacy. "Remember that Qing Dynasty vase we sourced last month?" I asked Lily. "The one they almost sold at a regional auction for a pittance?" Lily grinned. "The one that went for 7 figures to the collector in Dubai?" "Yeah. Pretty unstable that." It wasn't just about proving them wrong, though a tiny vengeful part of me savored the thought. It was about proving myself right. Right about the value of these forgotten things. Right about my own ability to build a thriving business outside the conventional path. Right about my decision to do it my way. And the next big test was coming. Lucas Harrison. A name that carried significant weight in the world of high-end collectibles. Not flamboyant, but incredibly discerning, with impeccable taste and a legendary private collection. He was interested in a particular item I'd recently acquired, a rare, historically significant piece of early American decorative art. The kind of piece that only surfaces once in a generation, and securing it had been a complex, multi-layered operation. The final transaction was scheduled to happen here, in the secure back room of the Gilded Cage. Soon. Very soon. And I had a feeling, a growing knot of tension and anticipation, that this quiet transaction was about to become anything but. As the afternoon wore on, The family continued their awkward exploration of the shop. Uncle Robert complained about the lack of sports on any visible screens. Aunt Caroline kept touching things with a hesitant finger, murmuring about how tastes change. Chloe was on her phone, managing her presumably very important legal work, occasionally looking up to offer another piece of unsolicited business advice or make a comment about the unique challenges of working alone. "You know, Stella," Uncle Robert said, wandering back towards the counter, "you're a smart girl. Always were. A shame you didn't use that brain for something more reliable. Like, the insurance business. Your father would have loved to see you in the agency." "I am using my brain, Uncle Robert," I replied, my voice carefully neutral. "Just on a different kind of asset management." He gave a dismissive wave. "Assets here are mostly dust bunnies and moth-eaten rugs. Real assets are in equities, property, things with quantifiable value." Aunt Caroline chimed in, her voice laced with concern. "And stability, dear. What about your future? What if you want a family? This is fine for now, but it's not a life plan." I felt a muscle twitch in my jaw. Life plan? My life plan currently involved strategically acquiring undervalued historical properties through shell corporations, managing a diversified investment portfolio, and cultivating relationships with some of the wealthiest and most influential collectors in the world. My Dust Bunny business generated more revenue than their entire insurance agency. My future was more secure and prosperous than they could possibly imagine. But I just gave them another non-committal smile. "I'm quite happy with my life plan, Aunt Caroline. It suits me." My phone buzzed quietly on the counter. A text from Lucas Harrison. "Arriving in 15 minutes. Discreet entry." 15 minutes. And my family was still here. Aunt Caroline was now examining a set of antique teacups with intense scrutiny. Uncle Robert was trying to haggle with Lily over the price of an old map he'd found, a map worth about $50, which he insisted was at least $1,000, and Chloe was deep in a loud conference call near the front door. There was no way to discreetly usher my family out in 15 minutes without causing a scene or making them suspicious. Panic flickered for a second, quickly suppressed. Then, a different feeling surged, a cold, clear sense of opportunity. This wasn't a complication to be avoided. It was a stage being set. I could hide the transaction, awkwardly shuffle my family out, make excuses. Or I could let them see. Not just see, but witness. Witness the reality that lay beneath the dust and their disdain. My decision crystallized. This wasn't just a business deal happening to overlap with a family visit. This was the moment where my two worlds would collide, and I would control the impact. I texted Lucas back, "Ready? Come to front door." No need for discreet entry. Lily glanced at my phone, her eyes widening slightly. She knew instantly what I was doing. A look passed between us, part apprehension, part exhilaration. The next 10 minutes crawled by, thick with unspoken tension for me, while the family remained oblivious in their bubble of self-importance and gentle mockery. Uncle Robert finally gave up on the map. "Too rich for my blood. Apparently you think this junk is gold." Aunt Caroline sighed over the impracticality of the lace. Chloe ended her call with a flourish. Just as Aunt Caroline was saying, "Well, we should probably let you get back to whatever it is you do, dear," the bell above the door chimed again. Lucas Harrison stepped inside. He wasn't what the family probably expected. No flashy suit or entourage. He wore well-made, simple clothes, a cashmere sweater, tailored trousers. But he carried himself with quiet confidence, his eyes sharp and intelligent as he scanned the shop, taking it all in with genuine interest, not disdain. He spotted me immediately. "Stella," he said, his voice calm and respectful. "Good to see you. I believe we have a matter to conclude." My family turned to look, their expressions shifting from casual disinterest to curiosity. Who was this? He spoke to Stella with a level of respect they rarely afforded me. "Mr. Harrison, welcome," I replied, walking towards him. "Yes, everything is prepared. If you'll follow me to the back." As I turned, I paused, glancing back at my family who were watching intently. Chloe's lawyerly curiosity was piqued. Uncle Robert just looked confused. "Actually," I said, my voice carrying just enough for them to hear, "since my stepsister Chloe is here, She's a senior partner at mention a generic prestigious-sounding firm name, e.g., Ellington and Graves. Very successful in the legal field, and Uncle Robert and Aunt Caroline are here too, interested in, well, in what constitutes real business and value. Perhaps they'd like to witness this transaction. It's quite significant. Chloe looked startled. Uncle Robert frowned. Aunt Caroline clasped her hands again, looking flustered. Witness? A transaction? Stella dear, we don't want to be in the way. Nonsense, Lucas Harrison said smoothly, looking from me to my family with an unreadable expression. He was playing along, catching my cue perfectly. Your family's presence would simply add gravitas. A testament to Miss Anders's professional standing, perhaps? My family hesitated for a moment, their confusion warring with ingrained politeness and, I suspected, a burning curiosity. What kind of transaction would warrant inviting witnesses? What could Stella in her dusty junk shop possibly be involved in that was significant and required gravitas? Curiosity won. Chloe, ever the professional, seemed intrigued by the mention of documents and transactions. Uncle Robert likely smelled money, even if he couldn't figure out where. Aunt Caroline just looked bewildered but followed the others. They trailed behind me and Lucas Harrison as we walked past the curtain separating the front shop from the back. Their steps slowed, then stopped, as they took in the sight. The contrast was stark. No dust, no clutter. Just a clean, modern space with a large, secure table in the center, professional lighting, computers displaying complex information, and secured storage. It looked less like an antique shop's backroom and more like a high-end dealing room or a private vault. Stella? What is all this? Aunt Caroline whispered, her voice barely audible. This, I said, my voice calm and clear, is the real gilded cage. Lucas Harrison placed a sleek, secured briefcase on the table. I moved to the secure display case, carefully retrieving the item for the transaction. It was stunning, an intricately designed silver piece from the early 18th century, steeped in history and artistry. Its value wasn't just in the material, but in its rarity, its condition, and its documented provenance, which I had spent months verifying. Lucas Harrison opened his briefcase, revealing a thick folder and a professional payment device. We are here to finalize the acquisition of the Harrington Ewer, he stated, his voice purely professional. As per our agreement, the final price is... He paused, looking directly at me, then glancing towards my family. $5 million. The number hung in the air like a physical weight. $5 million. For a piece of dusty junk. My family froze. Uncle Robert's jaw literally dropped. Aunt Caroline gasped, covering her mouth. Chloe's composed, lawyerly facade cracked, her eyes widening in disbelief as she looked from the exquisite silver ewer to the sum mentioned. Lucas Harrison continued, laying out the documents. The wire transfer has been initiated and confirmed by my bank. We just require your signature on the final transfer of ownership documents, Miss Anders. He used my last name, Anders. The family name they were so proud of, the name associated with Chloe's proper career and the insurance agency legacy. Here it was, attached to a multi-million-dollar transaction in a place they thought was just a hobby shop. I sat down calmly at the table, pulling the documents towards me. I could feel my family's eyes on me, their disbelief radiating in waves. This was it. The moment of the unveiling. Those are legal documents, Chloe stammered, stepping closer, her lawyer's brain kicking in despite her shock. That's a bill of sale for $5 million? Correct, I said, picking up a pen. But how? Uncle Robert finally managed to choke out, his face pale. $5 million? In this shop. I signed the documents, the pen scratching faintly on the paper. Lucas Harrison signed as well, his expression one of quiet respect. The Gilded Cage isn't just a retail shop, Uncle Robert, I explained, looking up at them, my voice clear and steady. The front is for walk-in customers and a bit of camouflage. The real business happens here and online. I source, authenticate, and sell rare and valuable collectibles to clients all over the world. Online auctions, private sales, managing collections for discerning clients. I turned one of the monitors towards them, displaying anonymized sales data from the past year. The numbers were staggering. Multi-figure transactions were commonplace. Inventory values ran into the tens of millions. Those are real numbers? Aunt Caroline whispered, looking at the screen as if it might bite her. They are, I confirmed. Lucas Harrison here is one of my valued clients. Lucas Harrison nodded. Stella, Miss Anders, has an unparalleled eye for value and a network most in the industry would envy. She is, simply put, one of the best in the world at what she does. Discretion is key in this market, which is why we often operate quietly. Chloe was flipping through the sale documents Lucas had laid out, her legal mind trying to process the reality. This is a legitimate, high-value transaction. The structure, it's sound. She looked at me, her face a mask of shock and confusion. Stella, how long have you been doing this? This isn't just a little shop. I started building this about 5 years ago, I said calmly. When I bought this building, actually, I saw the potential, not just in the physical shop, but in leveraging it as a base for a global online business. While I was playing antiques, as you put it, Uncle Robert, I was building relationships, learning the market, acquiring inventory, setting up the logistics and security for high-value transactions like this one. But the dust, the junk out there. Uncle Robert sputtered, gesturing wildly towards the front of the shop. That's part of the charm, I said with a small smile. And a very effective front. People see what they expect to see. You expected a struggling little shop owner, playing with old things. It was easier to let you believe that while I built something entirely outside of your expectations. Aunt Caroline sank into a nearby chair, looking faint. But all this time, you let us worry. You weren't worrying about me, I corrected gently, but firmly. You were worrying because I didn't fit your mold. Because my path wasn't one you understood or approved of. You saw my choices as a waste, a failure. But they weren't. They were the foundation of my success. Chloe looked up from the documents, a complex expression on her face. This is impressive, Stella. Seriously impressive. The scale of this operation, it's significant. This isn't small business. This is specialized finance, asset management on a high level. Her professional respect was evident, overriding the personal shock, though a hint of something else, perhaps envy, perhaps just disorientation, remained. It's just the gilded cage, I said, signing the last document. Built my way. Lucas Harrison closed his briefcase. A pleasure as always, Stella. A truly remarkable piece and a flawless transaction. He shook my hand, a gesture of respect between peers. He nodded politely to my still stunned family. If you'll excuse me. After Lucas Harrison departed, leaving behind a silence that was deafening compared to the earlier chatter, the family was left staring at me, at the documents, at the sophisticated setup around us. Stella, Uncle Robert began, his voice stripped of its usual bluster. Why? Why keep it a secret from us? Why would I have told you? I asked, not unkindly, but directly. Would you have believed me? Or would you have tried to advise me, control it, fit it into your world? I built this for me. On my terms. Without needing anyone's permission or approval. Least of all yours. Aunt Caroline wrung her hands. But we were just trying to help, trying to make sure you were stable. I defined my own stability, I replied. And my own success. It just didn't look like yours. Chloe, after a moment of quiet contemplation, spoke. It's a brilliant strategy, Stella. The low profile, the niche market, the scale. From a purely business perspective, it's incredibly well executed. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was a form of acknowledgement I hadn't expected. Professional admiration replacing personal judgment. The rest of the visit was strained. The condescension was gone, replaced by awkward questions, attempts at understanding, even a few hesitant, slightly bewildered compliments. They saw me differently now. Not as the eccentric failure, but as something they couldn't quite categorize, something successful beyond their immediate frame of reference. They saw the gilded cage, but they finally saw the value, the fortune, the empire hidden within. After they left, their departures quieter and less self-important than their arrival, a profound sense of peace settled over the shop. Lily and I tidied up the back room, the air now lighter. Well, Lily said with a small smile. That was something. It was time, I replied, looking around my space. It wasn't just a shop, not just an office. It was the physical manifestation of my resilience, my vision, my refusal to be limited by others' expectations. Sitting alone in the back room later that evening, the quiet hum of the computers a comforting sound, I felt a deep satisfaction. It wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. Right about my abilities, right about the value of my passion, right about the path I chose. Success didn't have to wear a power suit or sit in a corner office. Sometimes it wore an apron, carefully handled centuries of history, and quietly built an empire out of forgotten treasures. The best deals, the ones that truly change things, don't always happen in marble boardrooms. Sometimes they happen right here, amidst the beautiful, the overlooked, and the misunderstood. And sometimes the most powerful validation comes not from the shock on someone else's face, but from the quiet certainty in your own heart. If you've read this far, thank you. This story isn't just about me. It's about anyone who has ever felt underestimated, whose dreams didn't fit the mold built by others. It's about finding your own value, building your own path, and trusting your own vision, even when no one else does. Don't waste your energy trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. Build it quietly, build it proudly, build it so strong that one day, they won't just see it, they'll have no choice but to acknowledge it. Wear the apron, wear the suit, wear whatever you want. Your worth is defined by your actions, your persistence, and your unwavering belief in yourself. I built my gilded cage, one forgotten treasure at a time, and you can build yours too. Start small, stay smart, stay focused. Because sometimes the quietest success is the most unstoppable.